Hi, I'm here with Nico Ori, and he is from Coca Cola European Partners, and it's the largest bottler of Coca Cola in Europe. And we're going to talk about running operations across multiple countries in the COVID pandemic. Hi, Nico. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Leslie. Larry, pleasure to be here.
So, as you started up operations, and now we're entering a new wave of infections and whatnot, how did you do it, and how did you get your workforce back to the factories and bottlers?
Yeah, first of all, a large part of our workforce is working in supply chain, and they have been continuing. Have done a fantastic job of continue to work in the supply chain and to ensure our customers and consumers have access to their favorite beverages. Also, our commercial teams have been on the road for where that was possible. And in the office, it's a bit of a mixed picture. We operate in 13 European countries. So depending on the lockdowns, measurements, we were in situations of full lockdown, semi-lockdown, what have you. So I think the key word is flexibility and clear focus on health and safety. So we've put our people clearly at number one position. We already had a strong track record on health and safety, but we further emphasize that. And for the rest, we are very flexible in adapting to the situation. And we put in place some technology to help us with that.
So technology-wise, I know you use ServiceNow. Do you use like proximity detectors and things like that too? I guess, what's the tech stack look like for this?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't want to really make it into a tech show in the sense of, all kinds of technical gadgets and what have you. So we haven't really gone the route on, for instance, detection. We first of all created a very simple platform for people where they could register or give their intention to go back to the office. And then there is a process of sort of allocating their request to the right place in the office. And there is sort of a support, including facilities and managers in sort of monitoring that and sort of reporting on it. So our main functionality we report with ServiceNow is sort of the allocation of workspaces and making it really easy for people and flexible on the day to make that choice. In addition, there's a high need of people of information, clear information at one place. So that's also something we're driving from the ServiceNow platform.
So I guess walk me through the workflow in terms of, what the day looks like in a worker's, supply chain worker's life.
Yeah, so supply chain, I would say, is relatively. I mean, the usage of the technology there is relatively low, right? So there is a clear process of checking into the workplace where people have to go through certain procedures. There are clear procedures in terms of working in the workplace in the supply chain. So there, in a way, a supply chain is very much, has a large experience, a lot of experience with sort of applying those rules. It's simply new rules that are applying. I think the big change is more in the office. So if you have the intention to go to the office, you log into ServiceNow. There's an easy mechanism then to find a location in the office and to say, okay, that's on that day I want to work. The application will indicate to you if there's space. If there is, there will be a confirmation. The manager will be notified and facilities will be notified. So they sort of have a dashboard to track sort of the traffic that comes in and out of the office. And, when the capacity is at max, people will be informed. Sometimes people decide not to go. So there's a lot of flexibility in the application to support that.
And the office, how do the capacity rules change? You're operating in multiple countries. So
yeah.
What are some of the nuances there?
Well, it depends. There are countries where there are sort of maximum percentages that you can sort of let into the office. In others, it's more sort of left to the employees, and in others, it's sort of back to where it was in terms of lockdown. So, I think it's just you have different governments have different approaches, certainly in the details of the pandemic. So in that sense, we just simply adapt to whatever we need to adapt to in terms of safe working places. So we're following 100% the guidelines that have been given to us by local governments. And the technology gives us that opportunity to have that flexibility. So it's very personalized, tailored to that country specific situation.
And how is something like testing worked into the mix?
You mean testing? Oh yeah, that's definitely an interesting. So we have not been tracking testing of employees. There are all kinds of data privacy challenges around that. We also didn't identify that as a main thing. What we have been identifying is cases. So if there is a case, there's a process of registration. There's a process of guarantee, the guarantee for people. So we have that supported by the ServiceNow platform, but we are not, let's say, actively managing vaccinations or testing that people are doing. I should say testing vaccinations, hopefully what will come in the future. So we stayed a bit away from it also because we think it's not really necessary, but also that European legislation simply doesn't allow you to do that according to the GDPR rules.
Okay, so if a worker tests positive, they're self-reporting, and then you kind of work from there.
Yeah, and that works very well. So we have high trust in our workforce. The process works very well. There's a very low threshold for people to register. Then, in most of European countries, there is income support, obviously on good levels. So people are not directly impacted also in terms of their income. So there's a low threshold for people just to report when a case occurs or when they are infected. Same for informing their fellow colleagues and fellow employees. So we give a lot of empowerment in that sense to the teams.
So as far as, being agile and responding to these outbreaks and the pandemic in general, how much would you say is technology? How much is cultural? And, I guess, how have you had to adapt?
It's a very good question. I would say the majority of this is culture, it's behavior, it's how do you team up, how do you leaders behave, it's sort of the attention for the needs of people. So I would say it's probably a 70-30, 80-20 type of percentage. So technology is important, but it's an enabler, right? It's simply help, shouldn't get in the way of having people to focus on their work. But far more important is to have, a clear, open culture, communication, support, really focus on the well-being of staff and helping people through this challenging period, right? And I think so far so good. So technology is important, but definitely not the most important for me.
What do you think the future of work looks like in terms of the office? I mean, do you expect everybody to come back, across your European operations? Do you think it'll be more hybrid? I know in the U.S., a lot of companies have been like, we're going hybrid and, getting out some of these commercial real estate deals and things like that. How's it look in Europe?
It's very similar, I would say. And there is clear evidence that to be creative as a team, to build trust in a team, you do need opportunities to meet each other face to face, sit with each other, sit with the team. So there always will be a very important part of people needing to come together in an environment, an office environment. Probably that will change the setup of the office. Some people say it will be the new clubhouse. It's where you go to strengthen your culture. It's a place where you can quietly work. And we should also not underestimate, there's still a lot of people in relative small apartments, sometimes with the kids running around. It's not always easy to focus on work. So I think there's always a need for offices, both from a concentration on work perspective, as well as that social element, that innovation element, that trust element, that culture element. So I think we're moving to a hybrid situation where there will be a lot of flexibility and where people can more or less choose when and how they would like to come to the office or work from home. But we should not forget that a significant part of our workforce and like I mean of other companies are in supply chain. And there, of course, that flexibility is a lot less, right? So it's a nuanced picture. Sometimes what you read in the news and sort of on the internet is often a bit office focused, and there's still a very large population who's working in supply chain factories, what have you. And there it is not, obviously hybrid working is a far more challenging concept.
What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night, I think, is to get everyone through this challenging time, this pandemic, and keep the well-being of people up. Certainly when the second wave hit Europe, I mean, in the summer we thought, I think, we're sort of getting to the end of this, we get it under control, and then the second wave come, and as you know, in a lot of European countries, we have seen the reinstallment of lockdowns, semi-lockdowns. I think the biggest worry is the mental health, the well-being of people, to keep them sort of engaged, motivated. It's sometimes not easy to work, like I said earlier, from a small apartment somewhere in Paris or Barcelona, wherever you are, and to deal with the situation. So the good news of yesterday in terms of a potential vaccine with a very high percentage of coverage, I think is good news. So hopefully there's now a light at the end of the tunnel, but the biggest worry is just well-being, mental health of people. Yeah.
Is there anything I didn't ask that I should have?
I don't think so. I think you covered all. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Larry, again for the opportunity, and great being here. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks.